when it will be out. But perhaps what we could do actually is to put like an exposure draft on our website, and get comments even before we, that way we get a lot of stakeholder involvement in what we're proposing. And I think that's what we'll do, just to get ideas on whether or not what we're proposing makes sense. But beyond that, in terms of specific dates, the role of the accountant is extremely important. In fact, we have 2 regulations I forgot. The first one is on the issue of donations. The second one is to actually encourage those that are providing employment opportunities and actually investing in infrastructure. And in both regulations, the role of the external auditor is key. We've put actually a lot of emphasis on the fact that the external auditor must certify that what they're actually doing is actually what they say they are doing. And before we now allow such expenses as are liable, we must get the certification of the external auditor. So the auditor is key in that regard.
Okay. Yeah, you wanted to.
Yeah, thanks a lot, because part of the notes I put down yesterday really was how we could get the external auditors to ensure that in passing a report of fair and true view on audited accounts, they also take into consideration what, in fact, the companies have done in the area of CSR, and hopefully there will be a framework or a regulation that would ensure that that really comes to be. Now, the other thing I want to suggest is this. Rather than putting things on the web, because not everybody would go there, why don't you directly engage the people concerned, especially the professional accounting bodies? There are not too many of them, but they would provide you with very good information that you require first-hand, rather than people just dropping notes on your website.
Okay, thanks.
One question for you, Ifueko. I'm just wondering, there is this dichotomy about being strategic with tax planning, and some people don't tend to see it as a CSR issue. What's your take on it, and how is your office looking at that? So,
Well, let me understand. What's the link between tax planning and CSR?
Sorry?
You said tax planning. I'm trying to understand the question.
Yeah, the question is, what's the relationship? If companies are very strategic with their tax planning, would that have CSR implication? Will you consider them as a responsible company?
Well, okay. If they plan well, we don't take anything away from that. I mean, we've long said that there's a big difference between avoidance and evasion. And so in that sense, avoidance would be more in the realm of tax planning. But even then, as tax authorities, there's actually a lot of literature and a lot of talk now about aggressive tax planning practices that we need to watch, which border actually on tax evasion. So in that sense, but if it's tax planning in point of view of ensuring that your business is in accordance with the law, without really looking for all kinds of schemes that are on the borderline, where some could say it's tax evasion, some would say no. I don't see that would take away from you being a responsible organization. But the truth of the matter is that some organizations actually do push the boundaries, and those are the organizations to watch. And sometimes you find that for such organizations, they make the biggest noise about CSR, whereas in terms of paying their taxes, they're the most aggressive in terms of tax planning. So you have to watch all that. But if you do it, if you are doing proper tax planning within the ambits of the law, that you are a responsible organization. Doesn't take away from that.
Okay, thank you very much. Greg?
Yeah. Just a very quick observation on that point. I do know that the Inland Revenue in the UK is doing exactly that. It's taking an interest in CSR because it's saying we've got these companies that are pushing the limits on their tax obligations, and yet they're trying to claim they're socially responsible companies. So you may well find a potential ally there in the UK Inland Revenue Service.
Actually raking more resources than private sector companies are in certain instances. Now, yes, of course. My understanding, at least in the UK, is that if you are registered as a charity, then you don't pay certain taxes. I'm just curious as to how it may work in Nigeria in terms of how you are able to tax or not tax or give tax relief to those faith-based organizations. Thank you.
As we speak, we have we have a group we call the SubTechCom that advise the board on technical issues. From Monday to today,